temporary. It's only temporary. A temporary thing. So hard to say goodbye to you. I don't want to say goodbye to you.
The axis will turn. The axis will turn. Long road that we're going down. Yeah, long road that we're going down.
So everybody's so excited because Novo Combo, what a name. Is it Novo or Novo? Ooh, here's the first question.
Novo.
Yeah.
No, it's Novo. Just messing with you guys. We have Pete Hewlett on the show and Stephen Dees, both from Novo Combo, joining us because they've got a new album out, 45th West 55th. It's out now through Wild Roots Records. You can get it on Bandcamp. There's a CD and all digital platforms, right? So everywhere. People just Google it, get it.
Well, actually, I don't think you can get it on Bandcamp right now, but we're on
Okay.
we're on Bandzoogle, I think it's called.
Bandzoogle.
We have Wild Roots Records website,
Okay.
novocombo.com website.
Mhm.
We're on Facebook, Meta.
Hey, I'm on Bandzoogle. I'm a member of Bandzoogle.
Oh, cool.
Bandzoogle. That's cool. Well,
Yeah.
Bandcamp was always like kind of the place, like the safe space.
Yeah.
And now it's
Well, Michael's on there.
Yeah.
Michael is
yeah, I saw Michael on
he
there.
put his
Yeah.
record on there, and I think he's got our previous Novo Combo records on there or something.
All right.
But this album is not actually on Bandcamp yet. So, but
Okay.
it's streaming, Spotify, all that stuff.
It's a badass album though. I love it, man. It's got such a vibe that you just feel like sometimes music gets to this point of like on the commercial side, right? On the top 40 kind of thing, that everything feels kind of commercial a lot of times. So this to me just feels like somebody's just playing just really good music. I want to go to the beach. It's a good vibe on it, and you've got so many different styles in it. So I know people talk about pop and all that, and I just go, it's just good music. So it's great to hear. Where did the band name come from?
Well, we're in New York, crashing at Michael's house when we put the whole thing together, and we went through several names. I think we called the Shakers for 5 minutes and Taxi for maybe 3 days, and and then Soldier for a couple of months. We actually, okay, this is our name, Soldier. And then there was a band that was out there, and they were called Soldier, and they said, please, they asked us, that's our name. Can you not use it? And we said, of course, if you had it already, fine, no problem.
And it was close to police too. Police, soldier, fireman.
Yeah, maybe that was it. I don't know. But yeah, that's the vibe then, what was going on. And but I had one of these little notebook things, or legal pad, whatever it was. And I was writing all the names everybody was coming up with, right? And just massive list of different names. And I always like the name Devo, right?
Okay, yeah.
I just thought it was a cool name, and
it's different.
And I think we just started, somehow that got to be Novo, but it was inspired by Devo. And and it had nothing to do with any meaning other than just the sound of it at that time. And then, and also, there's always this retro vibe in New York when you go down and, you shop at the antique clothes stores and stuff. And we're just getting in the idea of a combo, like kind of throw back a combo. And that was on the list, but 2 separate names. They weren't even together. And we were just like looking at stuff. They go, what are we going to call ourselves? And then Michael said, I really like names like Steely Dan and Led Zeppelin, like 2 names kind of thing. And so he said, well, stop putting names together. So I started putting names together. Well, how about this? Blah, 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 blah. And at one point I said, I went, how about Combo Novo? Because it was 2 separate things. And Michael goes, well, how about Novo Combo? Boom.
Mm, yeah.
That was
It's,
how it came to pass. And I remember we yelled out, hey, Pete, do you remember that, Pete? What do you think of the name Novo Combo? You said, that's pretty cool. Yeah, let me think about that a while. But yeah, but
Where,
we all went.
yeah,
And then later we found out that I believe maybe, I don't know if the spelling is exactly the same, but maybe in Portuguese, Novo means new. So it ended up
oh,
being
right.
a new band, but
that's awesome.
the
Or a new
purpose of
group.
it. It
Yeah.
was just the sound in the beginning. So,
That's
but it
cool
actually
though.
worked out on another level.
That's cool though, man. I mean, it's like I like the word combo. You don't hear that often
Yeah.
unless it's in a restaurant. And then all of a sudden you're going, what? Am I getting fried rice with that?
Well, back in the 50s, there were a lot of bands like, the Bill Black
Hmm.
combo. I mean, it was a
Hmm.
common sort of
Or
name,
you'd have, when we
combo.
were kids, like an uncle, an old uncle. Hey, what's the name of your combo? One
Mm,
Yeah,
of those things.
it was that kind of thing. I mean, that
Yeah.
was retro then, even.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you think now, back in the day. So this album, how did that all come together? Because you guys date back a bit. It's like you're making me feel very my age. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know, but
All good.
music is timeless. That's the thing about music.
That's beauty. Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. Oh, anyway, how it came about. Well, a good friend of mine passed away a few years ago, and we're buddies, lifelong
Mm,
buddies. Great drummer named Eddie Zine, good friend of mine, playing many bands with me. Anyway, he passed away, so I started going through my library, listening for things with Eddie on it.
mm,
And then listening to everything that I had packed away. Because if you're going to take all your stuff out of the closet and bring everything out of all the everything, you might as well check it out while you got it out there. Then I started listening to some Novo Combo stuff, and it just blew me away. Just simply, wow, what a good band that was,
hmm
you know, a real band, and everybody, it was probably, I don't know what, one of the only bands where I felt like everybody really contributed in a very equal sort of way. I mean, everybody was good, you know?
Yeah. It was
hmm
it was day in, day out. We were working on stuff every
Yeah,
single
I
day
mean, people,
after we got
it was a real band, and we're chill about stuff, I mean, and we take ideas, reject them without a problem. We were there for a common
mm,
cause to make good
mm.
music. And so that's how it began. And so I just reached out to everybody and said, yeah, we got a lot of good tracks, man, that
Yeah.
nobody's even heard. And then also the demos of many of the songs that made the first record. I actually like some of those demos better than what made it to the
Mm,
record. And I know you hear those stories all the time, and they're true because
hmm
we would go into, I think maybe we did 3 or 4 demo sessions, but
hmm
we would go in and in one day we would play stuff live, like a real band, play, boom, you know what I mean? And it was
Yeah.
real, and you can feel that energy on those tracks because the last 25 years everything is perfect. You know what I mean?
That's what I was talking about. This is just feels so comfortable to me. It's
Yeah,
like
it
it's
was.
like it's like meeting an old music friend listening to this,
Mhm.
and some of the songs are brand new for me. And then like Long Road to me takes me back to the way I grew up musically. It even reminds me a little bit of the Clash in some way because you guys have this musicality of bringing just all these different sounds in there, but not overdoing it and keeping it still tight yet free. Like you guys are tight but free at the same time, which is
Yeah, yeah.
magic, man. It's magic. I
Mhm.
mean that song to me, I just like, oh God, yeah. That's kind of I don't know. I was raised on that,
Yeah,
that kind of sound.
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Well, the
Hmm.
combination of reggae and rhythm and blues on that particular song, and
Yeah. It
yeah,
just feels like, but at the same time, you got rock and the harmonies too. You guys have like a little bit of everybody and everything, but it's like definitely your sound. So, like, you guys
Hmm.
have all had these amazing careers of touring with so many different greats and playing with so many greats and recording. So, like, putting this together, I think it's kind of cool for new listeners to really hear about you guys and what you do. Do you feel that kind of like Pete, tell us on your side, how do you feel about this? Because you've all had amazing careers to kind of have this sound for folks to
Yeah, it was
connect with.
it was great putting it together because, I mean, we spoke to each other over the years, but not all the time.
Hmm.
And in a couple instances, both Stephen, Michael, Jack, myself, there were things that came up like you'd look on eBay or you'd look on somewhere else and it'd be like, hey, there's Novo Combo albums for sale. Like somebody's selling our stuff.
Fine. Yeah.
And it came to a point, the one I'll go to is somebody contacted me to see if I had masters for the Novo Combo, the first album. And I was like, So I contacted Stephen and I said, have you ever heard of this guy? As it turns out, he somehow got our stuff and was ready to like put it out without, any
Whoa.
negotiation on publishing or anything else. Plus, the other stuff that was being sold was kind of junk because people were recording it off of records. So there's wobbles, there's pops, there's cracks, the whole thing. So I think we came to a point where we decided why not take the reins and get a hold of our own stuff. And Patty and Stephen, I got to say, were so incredible on the whole thing with gaining all the publishing. Where was it? Who had this right? Do we have to change the name of this in order to make it without any lawsuits or whatever? And a few of the other ins and outs were let's incorporate a couple new things on it, which was great too, because there's 4 or 5 new things, plus the live stuff. We all had tapes of live things that were from King Biscuit Flower Hour from years ago. The quality was good on it. And the other things were songs that are on the first album, but were recorded prior to us having a deal. And like Stephen was saying, a lot of that stuff sounds even better than what's on the record. And I mean, it was just a great thing. It took a long time, but when it all came together, I was like, wow, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Contributions here from there. We live in 4 different sections of the country.
Mm.
And we're able to put the whole thing together, and
That's sweet. That's
it's
sweet
fun.
though, because obviously there's a market for it, right? It's good music. He doesn't want to, like you said, it stays around, but have it be what you want out there, not
Yeah,
not everybody bootlegging everything too.
sure. And I
Yeah.
think, I mean, the interviews we've done and the people we've talked to and the reaction that we've received and everything is a great catalyst because
Hmm.
we're talking now about let's do an EP after New Year's. Let's do 5 new songs. Let's do a couple of the old ones and some new stuff. So it just
Mm.
opened up, a whole door to like,
But we have the digital world now, right? Of communication, right? That's great
sure.
since you're all living in different places. But what about a performance? I'm always like, come on, we want to see it live. So is
Well, I
that a
don't know.
possibility?
You know what? People ask me that, Stephen. I don't know about you. If you want to field that one, do you want to go out and do a solo thing, or
Oh,
it's just
oh, you mean the band playing live, the 4 of us together?
like a
Yeah.
Well, Michael is not inclined to do that right now because
Okay.
he's had some
health issues?
health issues.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, he's not inclined. He can't like I'm going to go out on the road. I mean, he had a back operation a couple
Oh,
years
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
That's a serious thing for a drummer.
I was gonna
And
say,
so,
yeah,
but he's getting back in the groove. He's did it just
sweet.
recently had his own record come out. And he's going with the flow. He's doing what he can do. He's doing a lot of you know
Hmm.
standing up kind of playing that won't hurt his back so bad. I mean, so he's always creative. He's always doing things. But to commit to being going out on the road, nah,
Mm.
that would just be
Yeah.
too rough.
Yeah, that'd be something to really think about. One thought that I had, I don't know if when we were 4 of us were talking the other night, was Jack has actually put a studio together, or Stephen has a studio in Florida, about doing a simulcast kind of thing,
Mm.
a Zoom kind of thing, where we're live playing, but we're like in a room together as opposed to being out touring kind of
Sure.
thing. So
Well, the
Well, it's
good thing,
something. Yeah.
pardon me,
Yeah.
the good thing about we have 2 videos in the can. I guess you read about that. Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
I I I think this is true. I think those are the only videos in existence that actually show us performing live,
Wow.
like a visual. Now there's recordings of us, and of course there's a bunch of videos where we're lip syncing, like on TV or something like that. But I don't think there is any film of us actually I mean, of course, we did now, there'd be hundreds of
Yeah.
people to, but then that wasn't the case.
Mm.
So so these videos, we were playing a gig, I think in Connecticut maybe, and we were at this club, and then a crew from Italy came, very primitive stuff, like maybe one camera, one mic. I mean, real primitive,
Sometimes that's the best though,
really
man.
low tech,
Mhm.
And they
Hmm.
they said, "Can we film you guys at your sound check? Because we want to go back to Italy and use this on their show." Or I don't even know if that ever happened or not, whatever. But they interviewed us and stuff, and translated, I guess, to Italian. But anyway, so we have these two performances. And so, I mean, we weren't played to an audience. So we weren't, because we definitely fed off our audience. I mean, everybody.
Sure.
But you can still see the energy, what we're about
Hmm.
in these videos. And
What what was
happy to
it
have.
like actually performing on shows back in the day? Because you guys have done that and having to lip sync. It's kind of like I always look at that like these shows where there is the lip syncing and everything where you have to kind of it's a whole different way. Like now we have all the technology that is so incredible. What was it like doing that kind of thing instead of just I mean, how did you
Pete,
do that?
how did we do that, Pete?
Um, we played live like everything else.
You
Like
just actually naturally sang and it didn't pick it up or it did or
yeah, TV show. The only one that comes to mind is Solid Gold.
mm-hmm.
We did lip syncing on that one, but
We did a good job though, because I remember you remember Bob Kulick, the guitar player,
mhm.
Bruce's brother. Because I was doing a thing with him after Novo, and he goes, "Man, we thought you guys were playing live on that show." In other words,
See,
we really did a good job on on,
you're
on
a
that
good lip sync.
on that particular thing. And then after some point, even videos, it's like everybody knows it's a joke. I mean, I think on some of our videos, I wasn't even trying to pretend I was playing. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I mean, I think it was cool to not pretend you were playing.
Yeah,
It
Yeah,
was
that
kind
you
of like
because there's
giving
like an
the
authenticity for your audience.
yeah, But I mean that they're commercials. That's what videos were, or just commercials. And
Mm.
happy to do them and happy to be on MTV and all that stuff. It really helped quite a bit. It's good.
sure.
Well, and it changed too. I mean, look at what Peter Gabriel did, like with videos being not just performance videos, but
Oh yeah,
actual video stuff, man.
Peter.
That
I
was some
love Peter Gabriel.
God.
I'm a
I mean,
big
he's
fan of his. I love Peter Gabriel. His So album is one of my favorite all-time albums for sure.
yeah, and the
Because
video
he
work
and
just
he did very creative videos, and he's a great.
creative shows,
Yeah.
creative
Oh,
shows.
shows, man. The live gig with Paula Cole doing backgrounds. Are you familiar with
Oh,
that
I
one?
haven't seen that one. No.
Oh,
Oh
Paula
boy.
Cole, took she was, the female singer for that because
Hmm.
incredible, just
Hmm.
incredible. Tony Levin on bass, all those cats, man. Manu
Yeah.
Cachet on drums, just amazing.
Well, what happened with Novo Combo? Like, what kind of? I mean, when did it start, stop, and then now it's got a resurgence, and I have a feeling people are going to really, I mean, you obviously have like a following, right? And people who want the music, and now you've got it out there, which is fantastic. And now people are going to want more, like you already feeling, right? But what was it that kind of did you guys just start getting different gigs or different opportunities or?
Well, there were a lot of things pieces that went to that. When we formed 45 West 55, we were a band that practiced every day. We would work every single day writing songs, changing, just
Mhm.
really honing our craft, honing the band. We had a great producer, Chris Kimsey. Um, the album was critically acclaimed. We had a great relationship with our record company. Then things kind of changed where the record company, Polygram, Polydor, was acquired by someone else, and we kind of fell on the back burner. The people who were really involved in backing our whole thing were either let go or whatever the case may be. Jack, I don't know, Stephen might know, Jack, for whatever reason, kind of grew tired of different things that were happening, whatever. He left the band. So the second album kind of changed the whole dynamic of Novo Combo in that we had a great guitar player that joined the band, Carlos Rios. Carlos played with notoriously Gino Vanelli, brother to brother.
Okay.
Gino had
Yeah, yeah.
never used a guitar player. Carlos got a gig doing that album and became just, I mean, he's an incredible guy, incredible guitar player. So Carlos joined the band. The interim, our management, I think, did not get along with Chris Kimsey, our first manager, who, in my opinion, kind of formed what and understood what Novo Combo was about originally. We had Elliot Shiner, another fantastic producer, did Steely Dan and just numerous other groups. He was hired to produce the album. It was like we were looking for producers, and it kind of changed the whole dynamic of the band in that it took it from more like a, I don't know, what would you say, Stephen? Like an English kind of R&B, kind of raw in a way.
Well, it was like very slick,
That's exactly what I was going to say. It became more
like Steely Dan, like
whatever,
everything was
and
perfect,
yeah,
very slick, and yeah, we the first chemistry is incredibly important in bands. Like casting in a movie is so important.
It's a family. It's a marriage,
I
and
mean,
it's
it's
a
just,
family.
we just had a chemistry with the original four guys. That was just one of those things. You can't even explain it. It just is. And then, so when we went with a, fabulous, Carlos is an amazing guitar player, great guy, really good guy. But that combined with Elliot, who was also, very Steely Dan sort of thinking, and we recorded everything with a click track, whereas I suppose on the first one we just went and played.
Yeah.
Naturally. It just,
I think
it
writing
turned us
wise,
into something else. I mean, it was just kind of too slick. That rock and roll spark was missing.
No, that's what I was trying to get to with you with your music, is just it's so real and it's authentic. And that's, to me, as a listener and a music lover, musician too, and going, oh yeah, it just is so, it's like part of your, I don't know, it's like it's a life force. Whereas when things get too slick, you can pick on it, just like you're saying, like you're not like gonna lip sync and fake play through everything, because it's I think listeners want that authenticity. I think music lovers want that, and sometimes it gets so clean that it's clean becomes so boring. You want some grit.
Yeah,
You want some
exactly.
grit and dirt.
yeah.
It's like that's
Yeah,
what's so
yeah.
beautiful about albums, vinyl, is that you want to hear that little can't even do the sound properly, but you want to hear that.
Example, Chris Kimsey, I love this. We were doing a track on something, and Michael said, and Chris had produced the Rolling Stones. You want to talk about grit, listen to the Stones demos of thing. But this is the first time I ever heard this, because, I mean, engineers where I live at home, not at home, Pittsburgh, going into the studios, whatever, it was always like, example. So Michael said, Chris, my bass pedal's squeaking. Can you hear that? And we heard it through the cans, whatever. And Chris comes on and says, yeah, leave it in. And it was like, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if somebody sneezed, you know what I mean? It just it was real, as opposed to like really, just taking
You're
everything
giving the
apart and
audience
cleaning everything, and
yeah.
and not to blame it on the whole, it was like New York and California. It's two different things, two different sounds, two different approaches, I guess, to whatever. Because the second album was a great album. I think it sounds fantastic, the whole thing, but it was different from what Novo Combo was originally. And to finish what happened, we went on tour and we did some great shows. We opened for The Who. We toured with Cheap Trick, Greg Lake, different bands and everything. And I think we were out west somewhere in Portland, Oregon or whatever. And we were informed that the record company was not going to pick up our contract. Plus there was no more money. It was like, so we came back to like bills not being paid. Just okay. And I think I personally reached the point, was like, you know what? I poured my heart and soul into this whole thing. I think I'm finished, and it was just like, And, I don't know how Stephen felt. Michael was kind of like, I mean, truth is, we probably should have taken that as a sophomore jinx and done a Tom Petty kind of thing and, warriored on, but it didn't happen. So that's when
Well, I
the
mean,
band, that's when the band.
one little thing to add to that is actually the record company wasn't dropping us. They wanted us. They had this great idea. Well, I don't know if it was a great idea or not, but they thought
Yeah, that's good.
they thought it was a great idea that initially they wanted to release City Bound E Train as a single because that was like one of their
Mm-hmm.
favorite tracks. But them in their wisdom sat around the conference room to themselves and said, "This is a great song, but I don't think anybody in Nebraska is going to relate to a song about a New York subway." That was their
True.
thinking, right? And then in the interim of all, the progression that we had after doing our second album, within that time, a band called Men at Work from Australia had this massive
Mm-hmm.
hit.
Yeah.
They're talking about Vegemite sandwiches.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally has nothing. It's all very Australian. It has nothing to do.
I eat that stuff.
Oh, okay. So, but
I lived in South
nobody knew what
Africa.
the heck that was then,
I
right?
still have Marmite
And
in my
so,
kitchen
they
area.
thought, well, we were wrong. We were wrong to think that somebody out in the Midwest, what's that? That was stupid. They realized that was dumb. So they came to us and said, we would like to re-release City Bound E Train, a live version that we did as a single, right? And that was one of their ideas. And we were like, well, you should have, we're like, wait a minute. You should have figured this out in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You should have made the right call. If you believed in that song so much, why didn't you just get behind it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You didn't. You just thought, oh, people won't understand it because it's a New York song, which is, I mean, come on, New York state of mind, right? But anyway. And then they say,
I never knew what he meant.
let's
yeah,
do
no,
that.
none of us are going to listen to Georgia on Mine because we've never been there. That's
I live in Florida, but
yeah.
that or then they said, or we'll commit to an EP. They were offering us to do an EP, and we were insulted by that because what happened? I mean, last year you guys thought we were the greatest thing since sliced bread. So, and now it's either release a live version of a song from our first record or do an EP. And we were just bummed out. The business was making us crazy. It was just making us nuts. And at that point, we did play around, did some gigs to try to court some other record labels, and we had some interest. But one thing led to another, and it was just like,
Yeah.
oh,
Well, no, because
need a
your
break.
your music is good, and the suits, basically, I just call it the suits, get in the way a lot of times of what's going on in the creativity and the fellowship of a band. I mean, like we were talking about that. I mean, their band is like it's like blood brothers and sisters. It's everything. It's like you can look at each other on a stage and know what's going to happen next. It's
Oh
there's
yeah,
there's a
yeah,
language without anybody being able to, and if the people on the money side, that's what they're just doing that, and they don't have that other side, and maybe they know what a good song is. I mean, who doesn't?
Mm.
Honestly, you know, I'm just saying, who doesn't know what a good song is? We all know what a good song is. I think, I don't want to insult, listeners and everything, but we know what a good song is. And I think the industry, that's what I was curious about it because the industry has notoriously done this. And now we're in a very weird place where it's great because you can have your own label, you can have, but then we have streaming. Is that so great? Is it not? Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
we're in a weird area. And I just, I hope we get better through this whole thing. Even our industry is always in a flux, being in media, it's like, thank you, Google and Facebook, for taking all our advertising money. So it's
Yeah.
a weird thing, but you know, you guys all continued on your career. So to me, it's interesting with you guys being back together for new, to kind of take what you've done in the past and come together. That's kind of where my mindset was of, without the stuff from the suits. You know what I mean?
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The freedom, having the
Yeah,
freedom, the creative
yeah,
freedom.
absolutely. Yeah, there's
Sometimes you have
freedom.
to stop what is so beautiful. And when they say that thing about when you set something free, if it comes back, it's yours. That's kind of like that with you guys, like with, having that the four of you with, and then coming back, isn't that a beautiful thing that you're even able to do that? Because sometimes there's
Yeah.
players missing,
It
so
is.
it's a
It's taken a
beautiful
lot.
thing.
Hmm.
Well, we
Hmm.
wanted to kind of like reclaim our
Yeah.
legacy because
Hmm.
there are in fact right now continually still there's guys selling our music and ripping us off, and that was also a
And
part.
dressing like us.
No, really?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
Well,
mean, and they do, and they
true.
get
I
away
still
with
see
it.
it.
But they do that to a lot of people. I mean, this
Hmm.
particular guy that's ripping us off, I've actually spoke to him. And I said, well, you need to start paying us. He said, oh, I'll pay you, I'll pay you. Gave him everybody's address, never paid us, of course. But also
Hmm.
he do, I know other artists that he's done the same thing to. In fact,
Mm,
because when he called me and he was talking about, because we have master tapes. We have good tapes,
yeah,
of the
cool.
records. And we've considered, putting those out. But I don't know the extent of the legalities of that because I try to play by the rules. But
Yeah, yeah.
but I mean, I talked to a friend of mine, who is an artist, and who I saw this guy was also selling his stuff, and so I called him up and said, "What do you think of this guy?" He said he's a crook, he's a liar, stay away from him.
Mm,
You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay. So this guy's out there doing this, and he's still doing it, and he's getting away with it, and it's frustrating. So we're trying to sort of like take it back and hey, people, if you want to buy Novo Combo stuff, why don't you buy it from us?
the band, yeah, get it from
Hmm.
you guys, which is great, and where people can get it. So CD wise, people can get the CD, right? So is that's we want them to get that. So go to
Yeah, and,
the
and the CD also has an extra track on it, a
oh
bonus
sweet
track. Yeah, a legitimate bonus track that you can't get for streaming. We did a
from the other
cover
person.
of the Beatles song
Yeah,
"And I Love Her," and
that's cool. That's
yeah,
cool.
we love the Beatles, man. We had to pay tribute to those guys.
Well, yeah. I mean, aren't they part of just every musical journey, right? They're some
Yeah,
part
Yeah,
of
they're
it,
part of
wherever.
ours.
Sure.
you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, in fact, they are the reason why for me anyway, and I think probably for Pete and the rest of us is like they set the bar so high as far as songwriting, and that's what it's all about. I mean, songwriting is the deal to me. That's I
Hmm.
love good songs. It doesn't matter
Hmm.
what kind of music it is. Doesn't matter how proficient somebody is or whatever. I mean, you mentioned the Clash. I love the Clash. They're very versatile. They're very eclectic. People think, oh,
That's what
punk.
that
No, they're
that's
not
why.
just a punk band at all.
Oh hell no.
They
Oh
do like
God,
Motown
they're
grooves.
jazz.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and Elvis Costello, all those guys, great
Hmm.
songs,
Hmm.
and really that had a lot to do with the Beatles setting the bar so ridiculously high, and because when I started
Exactly.
writing, it's like I got to write something at least sort of as good as one of their worst songs. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
You shoot for that. But and we all, I
Wow.
think we all realize that's important. That's really
Hmm.
the deal.
It's that is that integrity to the music, right? And
Sure.
as listeners, and that's where it's hard with the business side is, you know, they're not necessarily about the integrity of the craft. It's always about the money side. And, there's always got to be someone who has to be the gatekeeper of the funds. And, but you have to trust them, and that's the hard thing, so you guys having your own thing is good. Um, Meeting each other because you're all in different places now. Were you all in New York at that time, and kind of got to know each other from different bands and things, and
Take it away,
or
Pete.
yeah.
Yeah, I was in town. I was working with Carly Simon at the time,
Mm,
and a mutual friend of ours, Carly's thing had. I did an album with her. We did a short tour, and then she had a
mhm,
problem going on stage, anxiety.
mhm, yeah.
But anyhow, that was the end of that. So I thought, well, I guess I'll go back home and put a band together, whatever. And a friend of ours, a friend of mine, said, "Hey, I saw an ad in the Village Voice that Michael Shrieve is having auditions, putting a band together." I said, "Nah, I wouldn't be able to do that." So she talked me into it, and I went up and auditioned. And you guys had auditioned like I don't know, a lot of people.
Yes.
Whether you were tired of it or whatever. But we ran through some songs, had a great time, hit it off right away and everything. So they hired me to be in the band. So that's otherwise I'd have been gone. I wouldn't have been in Novo Combo. But Jack and Stephen, you guys had a relationship together, right? And you
Well,
went
yeah,
to
we
meet
got Jack
Michael.
down in Miami. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was on with Michael last week, and he had mentioned that you two had spoken on the phone or whatever, and decided to meet up and try to put something together. So we were kind of all in New York together, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, I was actually like doing a solo, working on a solo thing. Working with some really good people. And but I was in this bind contractually with my ex-manager who was kind of messing with me big time, would let me out of my contract. So I was like battling that for a while, and I hooked up with some other management. So I was going back and forth to New York on doing my solo thing. And then I was, staying at my parents' river house. And I got a call from Michael just one day. Michael's like, "Hey, this is Michael Shrieve." I'm like, "Oh, really?" Because I'm Michael Shrieve fan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I love Santana and
Oh my
Mike.
God, it's
Michael's
iconic. His playing is
awesome.
iconic.
Yeah, and he said, "Well, I was talking to Bill Aucoin. He was a manager who managed Kiss and Billy Idol and some of Billy Squire, I think." Michael was speaking to him and said, "I'm looking to put a band. You know anybody?" And he said, "I know exactly who you need to reach out to." And he just told him me. It was me. I was the only one. He said, this is the guy you need to call." And so he did, and thanks Bill, for doing that.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah. And that's how it first came together. And on Pete's thing too, by the way, what is your friend's name? What was her name?
Karen,
What was her name?
Karen.
Karen. That's right, Karen. So Karen actually,
Yeah.
she auditioned for Novo Combo. She was playing guitar.
Right. Now I do remember her saying that. Yeah.
Yeah,
She
she
went
came to
to,
audition, and we
right.
love the idea about having a girl in the band.
Yeah.
We really wanted it to work with her. It's like, wow, that'd be great if this gal worked out. Wow, because we're modern thinking lads. And
That's funny.
and then, but she just wasn't quite the right person. And I remember she was on stage. She goes, "Listen, I know the right guy for you. I'm going to tell him he's the guy. You're going to want this guy."
Wow.
She was
See, look at
absolutely
this.
correct. She was right, and it was Pete.
Divine interferences from people who know, right? But
There
that's
you go.
the music world is like this. You've got the ones that aren't so cool, right? That we've talked about. And then you've got the music family of the musicians know each other's music so well about how each other plays, of who should be paired with who. It's kind of interesting with that, like matchmakers, because
Mm.
it's you could go anywhere, go watch a band play and start to figure out a new family. I always talk about that. You can move anywhere in the world as a musician and you'll find a new family there because
Mm-hmm.
you'll just connect with the musicians and it goes from there. It's like chefs only talk to chefs, right? It's kind
Yeah,
of,
comedians and comedians.
yeah, yeah. It's the same thing, and actually musicians, chefs, and comedians all get along. They do.
Mm-hmm.
They all do.
Well, most comedians want to be musicians.
Yeah, and or both sometimes. Some of
And,
them,
and Pete is both. Pete is
Are
both,
you?
by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the big pluses about Pete, seriously, in addition to being a very talented cat, great singer and guitar player and writer and everything, he was very funny, and we were like extra points for funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you need it.
Oh, well,
You
absolutely.
thank
need
you,
it.
man.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah. You've always got to have someone to make you laugh through stuff, right? As you go through it all and travel
Definitely.
as well. All the
Oh, it
traveling.
Yeah.
helps. It helps.
Laughter
Yeah.
gets you through everything.
You
Yeah.
guys have done a ton of travel in your careers, right? In the music life. Ton of travel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what about European? Have you done any, international as Novo Combo? Did you guys go overseas? Because man, I know a lot of friends who get into they come back, as a group or something, and often it's the Europeans or even Asian countries that will work better with the musicians and what's happening here, I don't know. There's a few select album, labels out here that I could say are fantastic, but other than independent, complete independence. But it seems like over in Europe and stuff, they kind of have a extra special care for music,
Yeah,
and
that's
musicians.
true.
Appreciation of it. Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
true. You're right. I've been producing a bunch of roots music records, like you
Sweet,
know, rootsy stuff like rhythm and blues, soul music,
sweet.
blues, and
Oh
roots
yeah.
rock. I've been doing that, and Europe always embraces that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They never stopped embracing, American jazz. Well, in fact, in some European countries, they call blues jazz for
Mm-hmm.
some reason.
Mm-hmm.
But they just respect it. There's a lot of respect there. And by the way, and we did actually we played Novo Combo
Mm-hmm.
played Montreux. We did the
Okay.
Montreux Festival, which was they had
Yeah.
this on Jazz Day, which was totally wrong. But that was the only
Yeah, really.
spot they could put us in at that time. And but we heard about the famous acts getting booed off the stage there, but we didn't get booed, so we like, yeah, we didn't get booed.
Hey,
Yeah. I
hey.
think I think we played like a 40-minute set probably in 20 minutes though.
And
Because
then ran like
boom,
hell.
boom, 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 boom.
And
If we
both
go,
people loved it.
yeah, if we go
Yeah.
fast enough, they won't boo.
Yeah.
But
Hey, and you,
it went over. We had a good time. It
you
was
didn't
good.
have to lip sync, The lip
No.
syncing
Hmm.
thing cracks me up. I watch some of these old shows just to like catch it. Like, and if you watch something like Lawrence Welk show and stuff like that, just to
Oh my
like
God.
how did they had to I just once in a blue moon, it's just an experience and it
Oh,
just
it's
kind
so
of
funny.
blows my mind, you know.
Well, my
It's
Yeah.
grandmother loved Lawrence Welk, and boy, I couldn't stand it.
that,
Except there was this gal in there that played boogie woogie piano that was
oh
incredible.
yeah, I know who you're talking about. Oh man,
She was
she's good.
that I was
She
like,
was good.
whoa, she should just be the whole show, for
Yeah,
sure.
no, she was really good. I know who you're talking about, and I do not know her name off the top of my head, but she is
She's
really good. But
great, yeah.
well, for me, it was a big eye-opening experience coming back to, our American country after living out of it. I was raised in different countries and coming here and seeing, way you have like a lot of TV and all these shows that we couldn't access. And I was just like glued watching this stuff. Now, like YouTube is fun to go on and just find bands that you never had access to. I mean, in Africa, we had a whole different world. Anything from Australia, New Zealand, that kind of music would come through. We were more on the European side, but we had Rodriguez, man. And you guys didn't know him. We had him. So just a different world. So like hearing your music, I was like, holy cow, man, this stuff, I grew up listening to music like yours. And it's very, to me, it's I don't want to say it's world music, but it is world music to me because of the rhythms and the sounds. So I love it. I'm
Oh, by
glad
the
to
way,
hear.
that
Thank you.
gal's name pardon me for interrupting, but her name was Joanne Castle.
That's right, Joanne
Right.
Castle.
Thank
That's
you,
it.
Patty.
Thank you, Patty.
My
No,
dad
Joanne
loved her.
Castle. She is good. She is
Yeah.
good. But
Oh,
I
she's
don't
the
know.
best.
I just think you guys have this international vibe to you in your music, which I
Well,
dig.
yeah, I mean, because we've always been about, Michael is not like a he's a world drummer. I mean, he's not
Hmm.
like a rock drummer.
Yeah, right,
He's a,
right. That
he's a
makes sense.
he's a jazz cat who likes all kinds of music. And so we always try to, when it was appropriate, fuse those Latin rhythms or ska or reggae, whatever, into the
Mm.
music. It's just because it broadens your palate,
Yeah, yeah,
and
Sure.
straight old rock and roll too. Great. I mean, we just love it all. Just good music, whatever it
yeah,
is,
yeah.
doesn't matter.
Well, I always say music is one of the it's like as important as air and water, and it's
Hmm.
one of the necessities in life, and it is a universal language. So, oh
Absolutely.
man, guys, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. And I can't wait for all of our audiences to catch on to your music if they haven't heard it before, especially. So it's kind of new, like a new, fresh sound for people. And then for those who know you, it's going to be a treat to get a new album that comes from you.
Great.
directly. So thank you so much. It's been a
Thank
real
you,
pleasure
Lisa.
having you on, and I hope for
Pleasure.
more. I really hope for
Pleasure.
more from you guys.
Thank
Really.
you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Feel the bass of the drum, the rum-a-bum, the eternal beat of the street. City bound, city